Quite a key day in the history of the ongoing migrant crisis today. The first ever asylum seekers camp has opened in Essex. It's the former Wethersfield Air Base, which has been converted into a giant kind of camp. You can't call them a detention centre because they're not detained, which is why local...
It's probably a holiday camp, Kev, isn't it? It'll be a holiday camp.
Well, other holiday camps are being converted to accommodate them. So, as I said in my monologue there, what's going on right now? We've got Wethersfield opening now. They're trying to open RAF Scampton up in Lincolnshire. The residents up there have been slightly more fortunate in their campaign. They've managed to secure, due to legal efforts, a judicial review of whether or not RAF Scampton, where they filmed what was the film? Remind me, what was the film? No one.
I don't know which one.
The one with Kenneth Moore. The Eagle. What's it called?
Oh, the Battle of Britain.
No.
Battle of Britain.
Come on.
I don't know. I didn't realise this was going to turn into a movie quiz.
I'll remember it in a minute. Anyway, it's a classic film. Anyway, RAF Scampton. That's under review. We've got derelict prisons, old holiday camps, all being converted into these new asylum seeker camps, which will hold thousands of people. They're still going into hotels, but this is the new face of Britain. We're going to have more and more places like this. So what happened, Russell, to Rishi Sunak's pledge to stop the boats?
Well, surprise, surprise, it was another politician's empty promise. I mean, I think we were all surprised when he made not just a pledge, which, OK, let's, I suppose, think about giving him the benefit of the doubt, as maybe some people did when he actually made that pledge a few months ago, along with 4 others. But of course, famously, not 3 or 4 weeks ago, he made a statement that actually his plan was working because the number of migrants coming over on boats had dropped. And I think that was basically 2 or 3 weeks worth of data, when, of course, the weather in the Channel wasn't very good. So that was very premature, very ill-advised, I think. We need to kind of put this into context. I mean, there's all sorts of implications here, of course, not least the fact that the Wethersfield camp actually is about 20 miles away from where I live. So I'm talking from Brentwood in Essex. It's just up the A12 from me. I can feel the value of my property eroding as we speak as a consequence of the 1,500 economic migrants, illegal immigrants as they are, descending upon the wonderful county of Essex. The reality, though, is, Kev, we're looking at, 1,000, 1,500, sometimes 2,000 migrants a week coming to these shores on boats.
Yeah.
Does the government really think and really expect us to believe that by commandeering holiday camps, prisons, military bases, hotels, and goodness knows what else next, I don't know, Airbnbs, I mean, maybe they're next, Premier Inn, Holiday Inn, maybe they'll requisition those too. Frankly, I kid you not, we're going to have to, because 50 to 100,000 migrants coming over that we insist on housing in these kind of semi-luxury surroundings, we're going to run out of accommodation. As it is, the Wethersfield camp represents, the 1,500 migrants that are going to end up in that camp represents an addition of nearly 10% of the population of that Wethersfield town. So the fact that the government seem to think that the answer, this sticking plaster nonsense, is simply to say, well, let's just find more places for them all to live. That isn't the answer. The answer is to stop them coming over in the first place. And the way you do that, honestly, and I can't believe that we're having to even spell this out, is to remove the incredible amount of incentives that right now still exist on the government's website that tells migrants from all over the world what they get if they come to our country. And that includes cash payments, the obligatory pizza when they end up on the sands of Dover, accommodation, free healthcare, free dentistry, even though the British public don't get that, free education, and so on and so on. Surely it's time that someone with half a brain cell within the government removes the incentives that are attracting people here that, frankly, otherwise would keep them in France, Italy, Greece, and perhaps where they live, mostly in Albania. Doesn't that make sense?
Yes, it does. And, do you know what accommodation is available for migrants when they arrive in France? None whatsoever.
a tent.
None whatsoever. They occasionally get given tents. So the French do not put them up anywhere. No wonder they leave France to come to Britain, because when they get to Britain, as you quite rightly say, Russell, free accommodation, often in 4-star hotels, costing 300 quid a night if you happen to be a normal resident. They get 45 quid a week. They get free food for as long as they remain here. So,
and you know the other laughable thing? The other laughable thing, Kev, if you are pregnant, which means you're a woman, by the way, not a person that's pregnant, a woman that is pregnant, you get 300 quid. So the incentive is actually to come over as a pregnant woman because you get a nice cash bonus. The reality is, of course, 99% of these illegal migrants are young men in their early 20s. But my serious point, seriously, and look, you and I'm sure can't answer this, but if anyone's listening to this that can fathom for 1 second why on earth it is that the government don't remove those incentives. Now, it might be a consequence of us still being signed up to the European Convention on Human Rights, the European Court of Human Rights, maybe. Can anyone honestly give me any reasonable legal idea as to why we simply don't remove those incentives and stop saying to these migrants with our hands open, come on over, we're just going to pay you loads of money to be here? Why don't we do that?
Yeah, and also, don't forget, these new asylum seeker camps, the one at Wethersfield, the one in the offing at RAF Scampton. By the way, the film is The Dam Busters, of course.
That's it.
The one at RAF Scampton, there's a prison down near, a derelict prison down near Bexhill called North Eye that they're busy renovating. They're going to put 1,200 more in there. It's costing 20 million quid, by the way, to renovate the prison. We're still covering the stories of these hotels that they're commandeering left, right and centre. There's about 500 of them. You've seen down in Wales, it's called the Scardy Park Hotel, 4-star hotel, copper baths in the suites, manicured gardens, 4 fabulous restaurants. It's 250 quid a night to stay there. All the guests have been chucked out. All the staff are being chucked out. It's now a migrants' centre. So we've got this going on all over the country. And the scandal, in my view, is that local communities have not been consulted, like near where you are, Wethersfield. And the reason they're not consulted is the government, to establish these places, these asylum seeker camps, is using emergency powers it gave itself during the COVID crisis, which means they can override local communities and do what the hell they like. That's why these places are cropping up left, right and centre, because local communities are not allowed to object. They're not even consulted. Now, in RAF Scampton, there's a really vigorous campaign to stop it, and they have managed to secure a judicial review. So the government's policy of overriding local communities is going to be examined by a court, and I hope that the government gets told, you can't do this unless you talk to the local people.
Well, one wonders, I mean, we talk about the erosion of democracy in this country, you know, not least where related to free speech, but that's a debate for another time, I suppose, although related. You know, the fact that we elect councillors, so Braintree Council has a number of councillors, however many it is, probably 40. You know, James Cleverly, ironically, is the MP for Braintree, who, of course, happens to be the Foreign Secretary and sits in Cabinet. So the council, the leader of the council officers in Braintree and James Cleverly, to be fair to them, to give them credit, have made very strong representations, not least at court, to try and stop this happening. But if we can't rely on the people that we've elected to national government, local government, being able to stand up for us in Braintree and, you know, Lincolnshire and elsewhere, then what is the point of councillors and MPs and so on? And of course, you know, the other thing that's going to happen very soon, Kev, just to really add salt in the wound of this, I don't know if you managed to see our plank of the week from last night, which I was on with Mike Graham and many others. You know, one of the planks there, of course, was the prison service, where we've now got a situation where camps and prisons and so on are being criticised by inmates for not being comfortable enough. So mark my words, in the next few weeks and months, all of these asylum seekers, these illegal immigrants that we are putting up at great expense to the taxpayer in these camps, believe me, you're going to get the likes of Jolyon Moron or whatever his name is, and others starting legal campaigns because those camps don't have fast enough Wi-Fi, or they don't have a gym, or they don't have an ice cream making machine, or enough microwaves in the kitchen. That is also coming.
Yeah, they estimate in 3 to 4 years that our daily bill for putting up migrants, unless we do something about it, unless we stop the rot, will be £30 million. It's currently £7 million. Within 3 years, it will be 30 million. And you're quite right. A migrant centre for women near Durham this week was described by a charity, a organisation that visits prisons to assess whether they're nice places to be. It was described as inhumane for 2 reasons. 1, the Wi-Fi wasn't very good, and 2, oh my God, pass me the world's smallest violin, there wasn't a hairdressing salon. Ridiculous.